Chris, Ashley, good morning. Jon Ossoff is trailing behind David Perdue this morning by about 187,000 votes. But it's important to note here that not all of Georgia is reported just yet. Ashley, good morning. Well, despite the Secretary of State saying that all of Georgia would be counted by yesterday evening, here we are this morning, and we still don't have complete and official results here in Chatham County. This lawsuit alleges that a GOP poll worker saw 53 unprocessed ballots get mixed in with ballots that were already processed. Hey, Chris, good morning. Well, the president has clearly expressed his anger over what he's calling a fraudulent election here in Georgia. And as that recount resumes today, state election officials are telling us that it's very unlikely that these results will change to be in the president's favor. Hey, Chris, good morning. Yeah, like you just said, Durant Avenue can get very busy, as we're seeing this morning. Traffic can get backed up pretty easily, which in turn, of course, causes some major delays. Ashley, we're in the middle of one of those downpours that Jonathan has been talking about all morning. The rain is coming down very hard. The wind has also been picking up all morning. I want to show you the ocean. The waves have just gotten huge. They've been crashing up against the pier. Thankfully, we haven't seen anybody on the beach this morning, but I think a big part of that is because the rain is coming down so hard. Well, of course, Ashley, the locals have prepared for much worse than what we are going to see, and so they're not too worried about the impacts. However, they are prepared for that heavy rain that we are expecting. Another thing for people as they are heading out the door this morning, be careful of those wet roadways. Of course, we have seen those downpours, as we will continue to see throughout the morning, and so be careful. Give yourself a little bit of extra time as you are heading out the door this morning. Students are walking off campus and heading home to their families for Thanksgiving break, which normally doesn't raise any concerns. But this year is very different as the world continues to face a public health crisis. Hey, Ashley, good morning. Well, it's a very different scene here at the Savannah Hilton Head International Airport this morning compared to previous years, and it's really not overly surprising because airport officials are telling us that they're expecting today to be fairly quiet. Well, Ashley, tough is one way to put it. Savannah Mayor Van Johnson says the first budget of any new city council is always difficult, and then on top of that, this year you also have the fact that revenue is way down because of the coronavirus pandemic. The coronavirus pandemic has pushed learning completely out of the classroom to online. We heard Friday for the first time from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation about their decision to make the arrests in what has quickly become a high-profile case.
We base our decisions on two things. One are facts, and the other is the law. Whatever the facts are, we apply the law to it. If the law says what the facts are is a felony murder, then we take the warrants for it. I'm very comfortable in telling you that there's more than sufficient probable cause in this case for felony murder. Thursday evening's arrest of both Gregory and Travis McMichael were without issue, and both were cooperative, according to the GBI. Now, the question being asked by many is why the McMichaels' arrest didn't happen back in February when the murder of Ahmaud Arbery took place in the Brunswick neighborhood. The only thing I can tell people is that, you know, I work at an agency and represent an agency that is committed to doing the right thing for the right reason. I think we've exhibited that in the 36 to 48 hours we've had this case. Anything outside of that, I can't ponder an opinion on it. Now attention turns to their continued investigation and the possibility of more arrests. We're continuing to look at all the evidence. They're continuing to do things that haven't been done yet, and we'll plan on doing that the rest of the time it takes before they make some decision or conclusion whether or not probable cause exists to arrest anyone else. The GBI says while it wishes it was called in to help with the case when it happened back in February, the agency isn't able to get involved until it is asked to do so. District Attorney Tom Durden, who is leading the case, received the case in mid-April and asked the GBI for its assistance on Tuesday. Mr. Director, where does the investigation go from here? We'll continue to track down leads. We'll continue to talk to people. We'll continue to talk to folks in the neighborhood. We'll rehash and relook at stuff that's already been done in the case to decide whether or not any of that needs to be added to or any else work needs to be done. And again, we're doing an investigation is similar to following a road. Sometimes it's straight, sometimes it turns, sometimes it's curved. So wherever that factual road takes us is exactly where we'll go. GBI Director Reynolds says his office's investigation is ongoing and could continue for quite some time. Reporting in Brunswick, Emma Hamilton, WJCL 22 News. These orange
orange ribbons along the fence here at Asbury Memorial Church in Savannah represent the lives lost to gun violence. And unfortunately, there's more here this year than there was last.
Tommy Frazier, 28. Deandro Scarborough Patterson, 22. Darian Clark Jr., 19.
That's just 3 of the 25 victims represented by these ribbons. Since 2015, Asbury Memorial has been lining its fence as a visual reminder of the devastation caused by gun violence, an issue that's not new to Savannah.
It's something I've watched all my life. From my time growing up here as a teenager, we had serious issues of gun violence back then. Now I'm much older, raising my own family, and this persistent problem is still here.
Westbrook says the issue is something she is passionate about, and while it hasn't personally impacted her, she's determined to find the answer to the problem.
I think the problem is multifaceted. It's going to take some coordination of lawmakers, of regular citizens, of folks who work in social services, just all of us as citizens and neighbors coming together to figure this out. There's not going to be any one solution. It's going to be all of us coming together.
Reporting in Savannah, Emma Hamilton, WJCL 22 News.
Covering Southeast Georgia and the Lowcountry, this is WJCL 22 Morning News. See us now.
Right now on WJCL 22 Morning News, former allies divided. Georgia's governor continues to fire back as President Trump fires attacks towards him and Georgia's Secretary of State. Meanwhile, the governor extends coronavirus restrictions across the Peach State as cases surge nationwide. And today is Giving Tuesday. Find out how you can be a helping hand to those in need in our community. It is right now 6 o'clock on your Tuesday morning, December 1st. I'm Emma Hamilton, and our meteorologist Jonathan Myers is also here with that certified most accurate forecast on your Tuesday morning. You are looking live right now at Forsyth Park. You can see a few people out there getting out to exercise this morning, but I promise you are going to want to bundle up. No shorts and t-shirts this morning. Jonathan's here with that full certified most accurate forecast for us. Hey, Jonathan. An unexpected feud continues in Georgia this morning between Republican Governor Brian Kemp and President Donald Trump. This disagreement began publicly over the weekend when President Trump said he's ashamed he endorsed Governor Kemp. The president sharing this tweet yesterday saying in part, "Why won't Governor Kemp, the hapless governor of Georgia, use his emergency powers to overrule this abstain Secretary of State? It will be a gold mine of fraud, and we will easily win the state." It's important to note here that claim was disputed by Twitter. The governor's spokesperson now responding, saying Georgia law strictly prohibits the governor from interfering in elections. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is saying, quote, "Dishonest actors are misleading President Trump and his supporters about election misinformation in Georgia."
There are those who are exploiting the emotions of many Trump supporters with fantastic claims, half-truths, misinformation, and frankly, they are misleading the president as well, apparently.
Raffensperger says the recount is on track statewide to be finished by tomorrow night's deadline. He says there are currently more than 250 open cases of election irregularities still being investigated. Now to the battle to fill civil rights legend John Lewis's congressional seat. Today's runoff will determine if former Atlanta City Council member Kwanzaa Hall or former Morehouse College president Robert Franklin will win the seat until January 3rd. Now to the latest on the Georgia Senate race runoff election as the 2 Senate seats and the shift in the majority in the U.S. Senate hangs in balance.
Upholding the law matters, truth matters, and your vote matters.
After weeks of criticism, Raffensperger is determined to make sure this runoff takes place smoothly. He's been very blunt and clear. If you commit a crime while voting, you will be caught.
Let me emphasize this again. Casting an illegal vote in Georgia is a felony. Casting more than one vote in Georgia is a felony in one election, obviously. This office will continue to take steps to protect the voting rights of the legally registered Georgians.
Now, many have been calling for Georgians to boycott the runoff election, but Raffensperger is urging residents to make their own decisions and exercise their right to vote. The state of Georgia is running out of time to wrap up its ballot recount, and Chatham County says it wants to finish today. After taking a break for the holiday, the Chatham County Board of Elections resumed counting yesterday. All Election Day ballots have been recounted, and they have transitioned to early in-person ballots. They say counting until tomorrow morning is likely, and the deadline to count all of the ballots is by midnight tomorrow. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has extended COVID-19 restrictions until January 8th of 2021. Governor Kemp spoke yesterday and now says he's confident that the state will be able to begin distributing vaccinations in the next few weeks. He adds that as it gets colder, Georgians should remain vigilant by wearing masks, watching your distance, and following other safety guidelines. Here's a look at the latest coronavirus case numbers across Georgia this morning. The state added more than 1,500 new cases yesterday. You can see here the number of new cases have dropped over the last few days. There are now over 422,000 cases total across the state. And in South Carolina, there was a big case spike on Thanksgiving and the day before, but you can see here case numbers have been fairly low since then. There are more than 203,000 cases in the state. The state of Georgia is set to conduct another recount of its presidential ballots after the Trump campaign requested one overnight. This comes after the completion of a statewide audit that confirmed on Friday that Joe Biden won Georgia. The Secretary of State says the Trump campaign is allowed to ask for another recount after certification since the margin is still less than 0.5%. The recount, which will be taxpayer funded, will be done by rescanning all of the paper ballots. Melissa, thank you so much. This week, President-elect Joe Biden could be announcing some of his nominees for cabinet positions. Meanwhile, President Trump's campaign is requesting another recount here in Georgia. Aixa Diaz is in Washington this morning with the latest. The time right now is 5:13, and here's a look at the coronavirus around the world. A Trump administration official says the White House is strongly considering lifting European travel restrictions. Right now, restrictions ban entry to most foreigners who have been to Europe 2 weeks prior to their U.S. arrival. Discussions about lifting the restrictions have been taking place for weeks. The Italian prime minister is concerned that skiing and snowboarding season could cause a third wave of COVID-19. He says coordination between European Union countries regarding slope season is needed because if only one country has restrictions, the virus could still spread around. Japan is scaling back its domestic travel promotion because of a new rise in COVID-19 cases. Some cities are being removed from the program for at least 3 weeks. Japan's health ministry announced more than 1,200 new cases Tuesday and 12 deaths. Australian officials say the Australian Open will likely be postponed by 1 or 2 weeks. Tennis Australia says players need to go through rigorous testing. Well, holiday shopping season is, of course, in full swing, and there are big deals out there. You just need to know the secrets to finding them. Our chief national consumer correspondent, Jeff Rawson, is revealing his best tricks to help. We've had way too much activity, but what would 2020 be without a lot of tropical activity, right, Melissa?
Absolutely. It's par for the course.
Yes. Thank you so much, Melissa. Yeah, Daniel, okay, 2 questions for you this morning. Now, I want to know, what about when you're cooking in the kitchen? What are some of the ways to prepare for that? That's my first question for you. Second question, favorite Thanksgiving side? Go, let's hear it.